he really showed the broadcast television industry, he really showed advertisers that, hey, black folks, we're a big business.
25 years later, there are still a lot of stations
who introduced us to so many great artists for the first time, gave them a place to go to when they couldn't go anywhere else.
Are not comfortable with programs that target minorities.
Few years, but it's such a gas. I just know you're going to be glad about it. The Intruders and Cowboys to Girls.
Black show, and I was kind of like invading their territory.
Just as a dance show is a dance show, Soul Train is Bandstand, Bandstand is Soul Train.
He had to hold your own, so we practiced 4 hours a day to become, really top level of a street dance.
Always in parting, we're gonna wish you love, peace, and soul.
What if I told you that behind all those amazing dance moves and groovy music on Soul Train, there were secrets that would shock you?
Don also faced pressure to maintain his leadership position in a fiercely competitive television industry.
Stories of dancers who never got paid a single penny, backstage fights, and a host who became...
Learned that the original host of the television rock and roll and dance show, Soul Train, is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
So controlling that some of the biggest stars had to escape just to save their careers. You think you know Soul Train, but you have no idea what was really happening behind those cameras. Today, we're going to reveal the truth that most fans never figured out. And trust me, after watching this video, you'll never look at those classic episodes the same way again. Picture this. It's 1969 in Chicago, and a former police officer named Don Cornelius is about to change television forever. But Don wasn't some rich Hollywood guy with fancy connections. He was just a regular man who had spent his last $400 on a 3-month TV course. Can you imagine? He left his job as a cop, walked away from his 2 young kids, and bet everything on a crazy dream. Don saw something that nobody else did back then. While white kids were watching American Bandstand, black kids had nowhere to see themselves on TV dancing to their own music. So Don decided to create something totally different. He wanted to use television as what he called a soft weapon against racism. That's pretty powerful when you think about it. In 1970, Soul Train first appeared on a small Chicago TV station. It started as just a local daily show, but it had something no other program dared to try. For the first time ever, there was a TV stage completely dedicated to black artists, black dancers, and a black host. This wasn't just entertainment. This was a revolution happening right in people's living rooms. The magic ingredient was something Don called the Soul Train line. You know that famous double line where dancers would show off their best moves one by one? That became the heart of the How. Every dancer got their moment to shine, and viewers at home couldn't look away. Then came 1971, and everything changed. Soul Train became the first black-run TV show to air all across America. Suddenly, kids everywhere were seeing Aretha Franklin singing with pure power, James Brown ripping his shirt open on stage, and a young Michael Jackson doing moves that would later become the moonwalk. But here's what most people don't know. To make Soul Train really work, Don needed dancers, and he didn't find them through fancy auditions or dance schools. He went to the streets, to nightclubs, to block parties, and to playgrounds in Los Angeles. He was looking for real people with real talent. Some of the first dancers he discovered became legends. There was Damita Jo Freeman, who could light up the screen with her electric moves and her signature hot pants. Fred Rerun Barry was a bigger guy who danced with such perfect rhythm that he made everyone laugh and cheer. Cheryl Song was the only Asian dancer on the show, and her long hair and smooth moves created this beautiful contrast that nobody could ignore. Don didn't just see individual talent. He understood that each dancer represented something bigger. They showed that dance, style, and soul came in all colors, sizes, and backgrounds. And they all deserved a stage to prove it. By the mid-1970s, Some dancers became so popular that fans recognized them on the street. Names like Jody Watley, Tyrone "The Bone" Proctor, and Jeffrey Daniel became household favorites. Kids at home started copying their dance moves, their outfits, and even their hairstyles. Soul Train wasn't just a TV show anymore. It had become a whole lifestyle. Don was smart about business too. In 1976, he started his own record label and created a group called Shalimar, using some of his most popular dancers. Jody Watley, Jeffrey Daniel, and Howard Hewitt went from dancing on the show to recording hit songs. It proved that Soul Train wasn't just a place to perform. It was a place where careers were born. As the years went on, Don expanded even more. He created the Soul Train Music Awards and other special events. He became the king of his own entertainment empire. But having all that power would later cause serious problems. Now here comes the part that will really surprise you. While Soul Train looked like pure fun and freedom on TV, behind the scenes it was run like a strict military operation. The filming schedule was brutal. Instead of filming one episode per week like most TV shows, Soul Train would cram everything into just 2 days each month. Think about this. In those 2 days, they had to film 4 complete episodes. The dancers had to change costumes over and over, switch their dance styles, and keep their energy high from morning until midnight. They had to look like they were having the time of their lives even when they were exhausted and ready to collapse. And here's the part that will blow your mind. All of this hard work came with zero payment. That's right. The dancers who made Soul Train famous never got paid a single dime. Demita Jo Freeman, one of the original stars, said it straight up in an interview. She confirmed that she never received any money for her appearances. Another dancer named Adolfo Shabadu Quinones put it even more bluntly. He said he got compensated with fried chicken and water. Can you believe that? These talented people who were entertaining millions of viewers got nothing but a meal and something to drink. But why would anyone agree to work for free? The answer was exposure. Don Cornelius was smart. He knew that every episode was like a giant audition watched by millions of people. If you were creative enough and stood out enough, a record label might notice you and offer you a real career. But in exchange for that chance, you had to follow every single rule Don made. And Don had a lot of rules. Freeform hip-hop dancing was banned. Overly sensual moves were not allowed. Dancers from New York who were used to breakdancing and freestyle were often told they were too raw or didn't fit the show's image. Even facial expressions were controlled. Rosie Perez, who became famous for her face dancing, was told by Don that he liked her face, but hated what her body was doing. She said he wanted her to dance like a wax statue with no soul. Imagine being told that your natural style had no soul on a show called Soul Train. Don also hated it when anyone questioned his decisions. Dancers who spoke up or suggested changes were often frozen out. They would be excluded from filming or denied their moments in the spotlight. Pam Brown, who worked as a choreographer, got into a big fight with Don when she suggested that the main dancers should get paid. The result? She was pushed out of the crew just months later. But the harshest rule came with contracts. When Don started forming music groups from his dancers, he required them to sign contracts without letting them have a lawyer look at them first. Rosie Perez was only 19 years old when she was asked to sign, and something felt wrong to her. She refused and said she couldn't sign without knowing what she was giving away. Don's response was ice cold. He told her she could leave because no one was forcing her to stay. So she left. Years later, when Rosie came back to Soul Train as a choreographer, Don didn't even say hello to her. He held grudges for a long time. Getting screen time was like a battle. In the early days, Jody Watley wasn't even an official dancer. She and her friends had to hide under blankets in a car, waiting for security to look away so they could sneak onto the set. Every second on camera was precious because it might be their only chance to get noticed. Jeffrey Daniel, who later became famous, admitted that he used every trick in the book to stand out. He would carry giant props like a toothbrush, bring a mannequin, or wear crazy outfits that his grandmother knitted for him. Anything to catch the camera's attention. If nobody noticed you, you lost your shot at fame. As time went on, the dancers started realizing how valuable they were to the show's success. They began demanding rights, creative control, and recognition for their contributions. This created tension that would eventually explode into major conflicts. Jody Watley was one of the most recognizable faces on Soul Train in the late 1970s. She had this disco diva style and amazing chemistry with her dance partner Jeffrey Daniel. Together, they created these elaborate performances that looked like little movies, sometimes pretending to be ex-lovers having a fight on the dance floor. When Jody was chosen to be part of Shalamar, Dawn's new music group, S, he thought her dreams were coming true. But she quickly realized that she was just expected to be a pretty decoration. In interviews, she said she had ideas and style and knew what she wanted to express. But it was all blocked by powerful men who wanted her to stay quiet and look beautiful. The breaking point came in 1983, when Jody announced she was leaving Shalamar because her creativity was being suppressed. Dawn's record label quickly replaced her and tried to erase her from the group's history. To TV viewers, it looked like Jody just disappeared. But Jody had the last laugh. In 1987, she came back with her own solo album and won a Grammy for Best New Artist with her hit song, Looking for a New Love. In 2024, she posted on social media thanking Dawn for her first opportunity, but saying she was proud that she had the courage to walk away. Jeffrey Daniel faced a different kind of struggle. He was actually the first person to perform the backslide move on American television, and he personally taught it to Michael Jackson. But after Michael performed what became known as the moonwalk on Motown 25 in 1983, the world connected that dance move with Michael Jackson forever. Jeffrey was pushed into the background. In interviews, Jeffrey said he was proud that Michael took the move global, but sometimes he wished people remembered that he created it on Soul Train first. He learned that fame can be a double-edged sword. Rosie Perez experienced the dark side of Soul Train in a different way. She came from Brooklyn and had no professional dance training. She just danced freestyle in nightclubs. Her sharp look and face dancing style made her stand out among the more technical West Coast dancers. But her quick success made some of the veteran dancers jealous. In an interview, she said she thought she was joining a community, but instead she was judged, called unprofessional, and isolated. Dawn would praise her one moment and then block her opportunities the next. The conflicts weren't just between Dawn and the dancers. There was jealousy within the dancer ranks too. Cheryl Song, being one of the few Asian dancers, always felt like she had to work twice as hard to get respect. Fred Rerun Barry, after he became famous on What's Happening, refused to return to Soul Train. He said he loved the show, but not how it treated the dancers. These fights showed a bigger problem. There was a battle between the older generation that wanted control and the younger generation that wanted creative freedom and fair treatment. What many people don't know is that Don Cornelius was fighting his own personal battles that affected how he ran the show. In 1982, he had to have brain surgery to fix a problem he was born with. The surgery was risky, and while it wasn't widely reported at the time, people close to Don later said it changed him. His son Tony revealed in an interview that after the surgery, Don began having seizures, memory problems, and unpredictable mood swings. He was still sharp and ambitious, but he would get randomly angry and fall into deep depression. This change in Don's personality affected his creative vision too. The man who once embraced new and fresh music styles became resistant to hip-hop. He refused to have rappers on the show unless the audience pressured him. Street dances, bold outfits, and expressive dancing were seen as threats to the show's polished image. Many dancers from the newer generation started leaving. Younger viewers began watching other shows like Yo MTV Raps and In Living Color. Soul Train, which used to be the gateway for black culture, became a closed gate that only played what Don thought was appropriate. On the surface, the show continued. Don kept hosting until 1993, when he was almost 60 years old, but the crew could see clear signs that he was struggling. His introductions lost their edge, his eyes looked tired, and sometimes he would repeat words or lose track of what he was saying. Tony said he started taking on more responsibilities, but his father wouldn't retire. To Don, Soul Train wasn't just a job. It was his whole reason for existing. After stepping away from hosting, Don moved to behind-the-scenes roles. He managed the show's rights and organized music awards, but he was no longer the face of Soul Train. The 2000s became a very dark period in his life. In 2008, something shocking happened. Don was arrested at his Beverly Hills home for domestic violence against his wife, Victoria Chapman. The charges included death threats and assault, though Don said he was not guilty. He faced a restraining order and probation. The news shocked the public because to them, Don Cornelius was the symbol of love, peace, and soul. But behind that famous slogan was a man who was falling apart, an aging king who felt increasingly left behind by the changing times. Tony said that after the arrest, his father became a hermit. He had no friends, avoided the press, and made no comments about Soul Train events. Tony thought his father was ashamed, but even scarier, he felt like he had no reason to exist anymore. On the morning of February 1st, 2012, Don Cornelius took his own life with a gun in his bedroom. According to the coroner's report, he used a legally registered pistol. There was no suicide note. While the media covered the story heavily, his family wasn't completely surprised. Don had struggled with depression for years and often talked about feeling exhausted with life. Some reports suggested he was dealing with early memory loss, possibly connected to the brain surgery, effects from 30 years earlier. Though the founder's life ended tragically, the legacy he created lived on, with both its brilliance and its unresolved problems. When Soul Train aired its final episode in 2006, it wasn't just a TV show ending. It was the end of an era where dance, music, style, and Black pride all came together on the same stage. But what did Soul Train leave behind? On the positive side, Soul Train was absolutely revolutionary for cultural representation. It didn't just give Black people a spot on national television. It gave them a stage to influence fashion, dance, and cultural identity. Without Soul Train, there would be no In Living Color, no 106 Park, and no early hip-hop music videos with dancers as the stars. The Soul Train line became a classic tradition that's still recreated at weddings, parties, fashion shows, and even on TikTok today. The show's influence even reached Europe, where Jeffrey Daniel hosted a UK version called 620 Soul Train that aired on Channel 4 in 1985. But the darker parts of Soul Train's legacy lived on too. Many former dancers have spoken out about never receiving any money, even though their images are still used in reruns, DVD releases, and online projects. In a 2024 article, an anonymous former dancer said they see their face on YouTube and their dances turned into memes, but they've never gotten a cent in royalties. It wasn't just individuals who were overlooked. An entire generation felt erased from television history. Soul Train's constant focus on Don Cornelius as the sole creator left many dancers, especially women, feeling unrecognized. Jody Watley wrote on social media that Soul Train wasn't one man. It was hundreds of footsteps, thousands of dance hours, and millions of unpaid dreams. Still, efforts to keep Soul Train's culture alive continue today. BET currently airs reruns with digitally restored versions. In 2023, a musical called Hippest Trip, the Soul Train musical, debuted in San Francisco to major buzz. It doesn't glorify or attack Don's legacy. Instead, it shows the complex emotional journey where each dancer isn't just a background performer, but a cultural warrior. The show's lead choreographer, Camille A. Brown, said she wants audiences to understand that to dance like that on Soul Train, you had to give your sweat, tears, and sometimes your future. Soul Train also lives on through social media. Classic clips with retro filters, funk remixes, and reaction videos on YouTube and TikTok are introducing Generation Z to this television format. But not everyone understands its historical importance. On one hand, this shows the legacy continues. But on the other hand, it highlights a problem. Soul Train is being reduced to just a visual trend without understanding its deeper meaning. It's a subtle tragedy that a show which broke racial barriers is now consumed as just another aesthetic trend. But despite all the disputes, complexities, and lingering hurt feelings, no one can deny that Soul Train shaped black culture on television. It's where Michael Jackson learned to perfect his dance moves, where Rosie Perez was discovered, where Jodie Watley began her journey to stardom, where Jeffrey Daniel created the technique that became the moonwalk, and where dozens of artists got their chances when all other doors were closed to them. Now that you know the real story behind Soul Train, the question is, can you watch those classic episodes the same way? Knowing that those smiling dancers weren't getting paid, that some of them were fighting for respect behind the scenes, and that the host who seemed so cool and collected was struggling with his own demons. The truth is, Soul Train was both magical and tragic at the same time. It gave opportunities to people who deserved them, while also taking advantage of their dreams. It broke down barriers while creating new ones. It celebrated black culture while sometimes limiting how that culture could be expressed. But maybe that's what makes Soul Train's story so important. It shows us that even our most beloved cultural institutions are created by real people with real flaws, real struggles, and real dreams. The dancers who made Soul Train special deserved better treatment, but their talent and contributions made television history anyway. Soul Train taught America how to dance, how to dress, and how to celebrate music in a whole new way. And even with all its problems, that legacy is something beautiful that will never be forgotten. What do you think about these revelations? Did this change how you see Soul Train? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. If this video opened your eyes to something new about this legendary show, please hit that like button and share it with someone who loves music and dance history. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the stories behind your favorite shows and artists. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we uncover more secrets from entertainment history.